Okay, June 28th, 12:15. You gotta love it. Neil Young, forever young, forever Carl Gustav Young. Neil Young's career has been conducted on his own terms. Oh, yeah, sure. BBC confirmed that they won't be showing his Glastonbury set, quote, at the artist's request, unquote. So Neil, it's been confirmed that Neil Young's look at him now, boy. He's rocking in the USA for freedom and waging heavy peace at Glastonbury. But as Neil said in a statement, our plans, including those of our TV highlights shows and on-demand coverage, continue to be finalized right up to the minute during the festival. Like Neil Young Incorporated. Instead, viewers will get Charlie XCX's Glastonbury set at the same time Young is on the Pyramid stage. Oh, isn't that interesting? Is there an eye up at the top of it? 6 months ago, the BBC's participation in the festival looked briefly as if it might be a deal breaker in terms of Young's appearance. At the time, he said, we were told the BBC was now a partner in Glastonbury. Oh, really? Oh, you mean what, the corporations are partners? Like Philip Morris is partners with the art museums and the Sacklers are partners with the art. What in the world is going on? We were told the BBC was now a partner. I guess it was news to Neil Young and wanted us to do a lot for things we were not interested in. What's he interested in besides Neil Young? It seems Glastonbury is now under corporate control. Yeah, the corporations have taken control of the sports stadiums, and the rock festivals. That's why they have Pepsi Cola and everything sponsoring it. Philip Morris cigarettes. Gee, Neil, you haven't noticed all the corporate sponsorship all over the fencing and everything else, and the $5,000 tickets to see Neil Young. It's for the old hippies, the old people who were fighting against the man with Neil Young. They're all overthrowing the establishment. Okay, go, Neil. We will not be playing Glastonbury on this tour because it is a corporate turnoff. He should just go out on the mall, like the old days. Get down at the rock club. If he wants to go back to being his old Neil, so he's hitting on women and they're all drinking and being real, not Neil, the great. Look, I never bought into the Neil Young music or act or anything. Believe me, I keep on looking for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old, and he's like a child. The guy's a child. He's like whatever. Mental universe he's in, it's disconnected from the real world that I live in, where people are, what's his stand on the Palestinian? Oh, he's going to be against it. What's his radical political stand? That the set they don't want, if he's going to do his whatever anti-war bullshit that everybody's long ago gotten tired of, then they don't want to broadcast it. Who wants to hear that shit from Neil Young? Boy, why don't we have Bob Dylan get out? Why did George Harrison? Well, he's dead. How about Paul McCartney, and they can all do Save the Children of Palestine? Except they're not going to do that because they never cared about the children of Palestine or Iran or anywhere else. What they care about is, the children of Yale and Harvard, and because those are the critics. The art critics, the music critics, all the rest of them. So if this isn't corporate music, I don't know what you would call corporate music. What, there's a difference between Neil Young and Snoop Dogg or Willie Nelson? Oh, they know they've sold out. I mean, they're selling pot, their own brands of pot and hookers or whatever. Porn. I'm saying Neil Young has always been a phony, man. He's a phony as they come. And along with his heartthrob Daryl Hannah, of the Philip K. Dick movie Minority Report. There's filming Neil because they're the great artists. They've acted in a film, with a script that was stolen from and mangled of Philip K. Dick. That was stolen, completely mangled because it's only stupid people follow a Philip K. Dick novel because he was a scared, paranoid schizophrenic, right? A few days later, he had changed his mind. See, I had to interrupt so you could digest this position of. He's like Donald Trump. I mean, he's got his position, and then 15 minutes later, a few days later, because he's following events in the real world like Donald Trump is, as their understanding broadens of the reality that's of the Middle East war, World War III, they started, waging heavy peace. A few days later, he had changed his mind, saying that his original decision, quote, was due to an error in the information received. It sounds like Zach Starkey getting fired by Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey, and then Roger Daltrey firing Pete Townsend. But it's okay that Pete Townsend is into child porn, downloads it because, who doesn't? The others just don't download it; they just watch it. Pete, got a little carried away. I guess he had to save the memories so they were accessible instead of having to go in and find new ones. Who knows, man? But he's a follower of Mayor Baba. He's got the third eye open. And Tommy, can you hear me? Can you feel me? Woo! I'm your wicked Uncle Ernie, and I welcome you to Tommy's house. That's Keith Moon, Uncle Ernie, Mr. So what are they doing with the young women and young children? Oh no, it's just an opera. And he's writing a new opera. He's have all young women, like Quadrophenia with ballet dancers, like Degas loved and Picasso loved, and all, the lace makers they love. The women in their bath and the boudoir. Yeah, it's not, if you want to call it great art, you should really see some great art for a change. And you might find out that it's just porn, as kinky as kinky can be. Like Kinky Friedman, is running free. He's a cowboy, country and western singer, radical hippie, enlightened, LSD, frontier, Kinky Friedman. It's all hilarious stuff. Or Terry Allen, or all the, what's the other guy, idiot's name? Oh, Donald Judd. Down there in Marfa with all the art, it's boxes in the desert, and you go out and, yeah, or Kevin Bacon plays Getting Dick or whatever that bullshit is, and Kyra Sedgwick, his wife, and they're happily married. It's just like Neil Young and what's her name, Uma Thurman. I mean, Daryl Hannah, they all look the same to me. It's like robotic blonde, tall, willowy blondes. How about, what's Charlize Theron? There's another. She's power up. Let's go. Well, why not go off to war? Because that's where you're going to be going. I mean, how are you waging heavy peace exactly? How were the hippies ever waging peace? What, out in the mud at Woodstock with Joni Mitchell and Joan Baez and Bob? Oh, they weren't there. Bob Dylan was too great for that. So was Frank Zappa. He's too great for that. Albert Grossman said, stay away from Bob. That'll ruin your mystique because you'll go out there and they'll see that you can't play worse shit next to Jimi Hendrix. Are you kidding me? Stay here. You're with the band. I mean, you're next to Joplin and Jimi Hendrix. You're going to sound like, Uncle Festus. They'll play your little blues thing, Bob, and harmonica, son. But it's the writing, it's the brilliant lyrics, the poetry of Bob Dylan and Arthur Rimbaud and all the references to Rimbaud and Jack Kerouac, because he steals all his stuff from Kerouac. Desolation Row, Desolation Angels by Kerouac, Visions of Cody. I go down the list, and Visions of Johanna. And there's Allen Ginsberg, right there with the signs. Allen the poet and Bob the poet, and they're stealing everything from Jack Kerouac, because he's the one who wrote On the Road, on Benzodrine inhalers, and he's crazy as schizophrenic, whatever you want to call it. But what's he writing about? Nothing except a sex party. That's not great literature. You go back to the 19th century, what are you reading? At least Proust is writing about the sex party, but he doesn't describe all the activities going on in the bedroom and all their crazy, wild times. It's their dinner conversation, you know. Gossip, because he's homosexual and they like listen to gossip. And James Joyce is, meets Marcel Proust. They don't have anything to say to him because he's in the Irish Revolution. Proust is like, that's who the revolution is against, except they all get together in the, women's cooperative bookshop, and it's all peace. Or the casino. I'm at the casino. There's all the colors of the rainbow, and everybody's in states of enlightenment. They're all woke. Bukowski's out there, and Barry Gifford, and all the other, who are they? Toby Maguire, and all the guys in the casino games, and let's gamble it away. That's what his money's for, to go gamble it away. So he changed his mind. It was due to a lack of error in information. He didn't consult InfoWars there with all the great information by Alex Jones and Kubrick's daughter, who's with Alex Jones. Hey, I'm just going to keep pointing out, it's the same family. Freemasonic, Illuminati, call them whatever you want. Family of man. Yeah, right. They're humanists. They're great humanists. That's why everybody's being slaughtered everywhere you look. Because they're humanists. And that happily, quote, the festival is back on our itinerary and we look forward to playing. Quite what Young has against the BBC remains unclear. I mean, the irony, whoever's running this stuff, AI, naturally. There's somebody programmed by, and all the information comes from me, the errors in the information, and we got this all backwards, and Jack Starkey's he was a glue sniffer, and Jack, now Ringo's pissed because, they treated my son wrong, and he can play better than anybody else. He learned from me, and I'm a great drummer too. I'm the best, because I play with the right hand, left hand, and tax man, tell me, the country shuffle beat. I played drums. I know, the difficulty level on a Ringo Starr drum. He doesn't do a drum solo because he can't get that. Listen to any Ginger Baker or any reasonably talented like Keith Moon. So Zach is more, because maybe it was the glue sniffing, but I think it was the glue sniffing because that worked for John Bonham, except he was using gallons of alcohol to stay lubricated and loose. I call this demon possession. That's what demons do. They just, hey, glue, man, Keith Richards and Ringo Starr, but the ones who were like Ringo's off making movies or whatever, he chills out. But Zach, his son, is a chip off the old block, drumming stock, and he's completely gone. These people are gone in the head. Great, why is everybody following him is a question I have. I mean, why am I getting all this deluge day in and day out? Because they won't follow reality. It's a place to go where everything is always, where everybody knows your name. Everybody's your friend. Quite young, but the last time he played Glastonbury in 2009, which he wouldn't remember. See, they're also in the eternity of now with Eckhart Tolle and Sadhguru and Ramakrishna and Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud and Karl Marx. They're in the eternal now. Russell Brand is another, and Joe Rogan. It's the eternal now of exciting sports activity and music to accompany it with. in the end, and what part of his set, there were similar negotiations over how much and what part of his set could be brought. Yeah, all the crap he playing and everybody wandering around like, when's this going to end? I was at one of the, like, Lucinda Williams concert, who used to be, great when she was, 40 years ago or so at the Bottom Line where I saw her. I saw her in her 70s, where she can't keep up with the band. And she's showing home movies, and at least half the people, if not more, just walked out, just left. But I guess the diehard Lucinda Williams fans, or people that are just like, who cares? I'm drunk anyway. It's like, man, who would want to go to see Neil Young? I can't imagine who would want to listen to Neil Young except somebody that just loves Neil Young and always grew up with Neil Young and listened to Neil Young and Bob Dylan and the Beatles and Ringo Starr. You got to see Bob Seger, and there's a lot of Canadians, basically. Because he's Canadian, right? Or did they see Joni Mitchell? I never would have seen Joni Mitchell. You couldn't pay me to see Joni Mitchell. God, it's like bad jazz, like, or Ricky Lee Jones with a little beret, and she hates Bob Dylan. They're fighting with Bob Dylan. It's like, God, good luck, Joni. I mean, like, they're better than Bob Dylan. No wonder, Bob Dylan's the greatest of all time, because at least he's not, playing new age jazz with Charles Mingus or something and bebopping. That stuff is and it's bad. Mingus just is crap too. He wasn't until he got together with the revolutionary sex. You just, if everybody just becomes sex and women and politics and all this, no thanks. And I just don't want to listen to people's politics played out in their sexual politics in particular. If they stuck to just the politics, fine. But their politics are sexual politics. That's all it is. In the end, only few clips were ever broadcast. Corporation ended up putting out a statement explaining his absence from a live broadcast. I got to hear this. The BBC has spent the last couple of months talking to Neil's management. See, who's Neil's management? Well, what's her name? Daryl Hannah, Albert Grossman's brother or something, Paul Rothschild's brother. The people that recorded Janis Joplin and the people, the Phil Spectors and all the rest. It's a Jewish music industry. You see it in The Sopranos, Paola and everything else, and Mafia, comic books, same thing. It's propaganda. That's why they all think that the God's, that they've got God on their side. And, Dylan sings this song about we've got God on our side. That's what he thinks. Obviously, he's behind. He's doing commercials for Sheldon Adelson and the Democratic Party and Jeffrey Epstein. The money's all going to Jeffrey Epstein or the Democratic Party. You think they're the Republican Party? No, they're whatever party. They're both parties. They put just as much money. They tip it one way or the other. They put it all with Barack Obama because that's who they need. John McCain, we don't need this. We need the peace president. That's the Antichrist. The peace, they're always for peace. Zelensky was the peace candidate. Trump was the peace candidate. Yeah, okay. Let's get Neil Young's the peace candidate. Yeah, get him. We're free. We're rocking in the USA. Freedom. We got our freedom. And you don't. So you got the Ayatollahs and you got the Russians and the communists. And we got our freedom. The USA. We're always rocking in the USA. He's punk. And then he goes from being hippie to punk. With Johnny Rotten will not be forgotten. And, I just stopped. I mean, bad music is one thing, but bad music with stupid lyrics is just is a step too far. I like, Ian Dury. I mean, the good rock. I like Jimi Hendrix. I like Neil Young. Forget about it. The Eagles. It's even worse. It just gets worse and worse. Sorry if I'm insulting the Eagles fans and Neil Young fans. You can't have a different opinion in this world. You know, that's the whole thing. And either you're with the revolution or you're a counter-revolutionary. You're for Donald Trump or Steve Bannon. I'm not for them either. I'm not political. Never been political. I don't, run around with Neil Young saying overthrow the establishment or Alan Moore or whoever it is. Because I know that is the establishment is the business people like at Starbucks who you're hurting. You're not hurting the, Starbucks. They're all insured, man. I mean, you're not hurting the corporations. They want it to happen. That's why they're funding it. George Soros is funding Antifa. Who do you think's funding it? Donald Trump? Oh, of course. He's selling us out to the Russians or the Chinese or whatever. God, man. Does anybody follow this? Let's see. Certainly not people in entertainment. Neil Young's career has been conducted on his own terms. Last night, Neil's management, you know the management is? Come on, it's Bob Dylan's management. It's Tom Petty's management. It's Snoop Dogg's management. It's Puff Diddy's management. Is there any argument about it? I mean, I'd really love to hear the counter argument to that it's not the same management, it's different management that they're under. Neil's management agreed to let TV and radio broadcast 5 songs as they watched and listened to his performance. They believe in the live event and retaining its mystery. And that of their, he's so mysterious. If you listen, it's like Mark Rothko, he's so mysterious. Yeah, R. Crumb is so mysterious, because they're the mystic R. Crumb and the mystic Andy Borg. So mysterious. You just, it's a mystery, really, who Neil Young, the artist, is. But what you don't want to do is listen to his music or his ability to play now, and there's 5 songs, and they'll produce them. I saw listen to live Little Feat, like Waiting for Columbus, fantastic album. They're live, right? They're not live. I saw them live, and you can listen to their live. They're not playing anything close to what you're listening to on Waiting for Columbus. The same thing with Big Brother and the Holding Company. It's all live. It wasn't all live. They did, they couldn't even tune their instruments. I heard them too. They were lousy because I was, in 7th grade or so, 7th grade, and I was hearing better music up at the church key because I could listen to it. And they were, on top of that, they're drunk. Yeah, they were powerful performance, but it was in a roller rink. There weren't 100 people, 150 just sitting on the. That's their only U.S. tour. After that, the band broke up. Albert Gross, you got to give us some professional. You can keep this guy. He can at least play Bach, a little bit in the world. But the music is shit, except that we produced the hell out of it. So we'll get, then the music is shit because it's like at least they had an original musical vision. And as soon as you say, well, let's put the professionals in and let's get Memphis horns and all this, then it just sounds like bad Motown or bad Nina Simone. Am I the only one that thinks this? I mean, that's what it is. I'm a music critic. Let's call me an art critic. And if I was, if anybody was real about this stuff, it would be that, not much of it holds up at all, and particularly as they get older. And I'm looking at the Rolling Stones. Keith Richards can't even push, falling off the stage. He's not in key. Mick is just dancing, that's what he does. He's still in shape, still running around. He's got his, wife who's 25 years old or what, 40, 30s. Who's the management? It's going to be the women or the management of the guys. Or the guys of the management of the women, or the guys of the management, but you're propping up corpses who can't write the music that they wrote in the past. So all they do is play it with a huge stadium fanfare and everybody sings along, which is what they did in the first place. That's why the music wasn't that great. Yeah, go back and listen to any of it, even as being produced in the studio. Listen to A Hard Day's Night. I mean, that's why they didn't play it. I mean, I haven't heard early Beatles. They play all this other ambient elevator type music, Billie Eilish or Lord or Taylor Swift or the latest generation of sex goddesses and male idols, whatever you want to call them. I'd rather hear music that like Bach is everything. The masses, the 7-instrument is the 3-instrument, the single instrument cello, the combination of horns and strings, and it's just, and he's doing it every day. That's God. That's sacred music. Mozart isn't, because Mozart was a sex maniac, so it's light and frivolous. It's great. It's, because everything was great back then. It's not as good as Salieri, the other music they'd say is terrible because Mozart plays too many notes. He did play too many notes. Listen to Bach and then listen to Mozart. God, if you know music, you know how much that Bach is just in an entirely different category of genius. All right, gotta go.